As South Africa's economy contracts, local restaurants and fast food chains are taking their concepts to the rest of Africa. We've spoken to Kevin Hedderwick about this in the past, and we've seen many other South African brands heading north looking for new markets. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight, I speak to two homegrown brands as to why they are also joining the rush north. Joining me, John Nicolakakis, who is the chief executive of Roman's Pizza, and Ryan Pellatt, the operations executive for News Cafe. You've got, what, 170 outlets in South Africa, and I think the grand total of 3 north of our borders, John.
Correct.
I mean, but this is the beginning of a new wave, I suspect.
Correct.
I mean, what are you noticing in terms of the local economy that's getting you looking elsewhere?
It's not the local economy alone that is making us look north. We don't want to be lost to market in the African continent. It's not only the local players who are looking north, but it's also the international players. So the lost to market normally loses the fight. On the one hand. On the other hand, the local economy is deteriorating fairly rapidly. With the commodity slump, though, the African economy generally might deteriorate, but there's far less competition on the balance of the continent.
Okay, I mean, you guys pride yourselves on price points, and you pride yourself on value for money. You don't do deliveries, which is unusual in the pizza space. Does the model get replicated that way in other markets, or do other markets have different needs?
I guess it would depend on the individual market. You can't brush the whole continent with one brush effectively. So depending on the market, depending on the logistics, depending what the needs are, we will still try to remain the price leader in every market we go into, but it's not necessary to say that we would never do delivery in any country we went into, or we wouldn't adjust menu offerings per se.
What other countries are you in?
At the moment, we're in Lesotho and Botswana.
Yeah.
We're busy doing finalizing deals and opening stores in all our bordering countries, barring Angola, that we're still looking for a strong partner. We're busy chatting to the DRC and potentially looking slightly more north, but we're not rushing. We're a very conservative company. If we can't control it, manage it and support it, we wouldn't necessarily just throw something at the wall and see if it sticks.
Pizza seems deceptively simple, and I'm sure it's not. It's multi-ingredients, and the big issues there. A concept which is perhaps more formalized and a bit more complicated to run because there are far more moving parts in terms of understanding the gin your market likes, the whiskey your market likes, the burger and the coffee, is the News Cafe concept. You guys are also taking News Cafe, which has become a well-established trendoid spot in South Africa over the last 20 years or so, also taking north. How many other countries are you in?
So we've got presence up in Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, as well as in Kenya.
No, I mean, Zimbabwe is quite an interesting one because you're in Borrowdale, and Borrowdale in the day was like the Hyde Park or the Claremont, or maybe it was a bit more. It was the Camps Bay and Clifton of Harare.
Correct.
Is it still the same market that is participating in that?
I think it would definitely be where the formal market is is looking to go to. Within Harare itself. It is obviously an urban area, so we do extremely well over the weekends, later at night. During the day is a little bit tougher because we are out of that CBD area, but so far it's doing extremely well.
How do you price, in dollars?
It is in dollars, correct.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really interesting because the Zimbabwe economy going through yet another downturn. When did you open that outlet?
So that outlet opened up in December, so it's still relatively new.
Yeah.
It was. We hadn't planned to open in December, but we can't always control contractors, as I'm sure John will also know. Yeah,
but Kenya and Tanzania, also really interesting, also really sophisticated, good, strong urban markets in those countries.
Yes. So Tanzania, we've had that store for just short on 2 years now, also performing quite well. And Kenya's been extremely good for us, although that store's we really opened up about 2 or 3 months ago. But there's going to be quick growth up in Kenya. We've got our second store, which is busy being built at the moment. Hopefully we'll open up doors there in kind of mid-November. And the guys are also already starting to build our third store in Kenya.
Now, I remember having a chat to the guys behind Seattle Coffee a couple of years ago, and they had some Seattle coffee shops in Cape Town, and they had some in Joburg. And I said, well, why don't you get a footprint across the country? And I think they've gone to Durban now eventually. But then it was like, it's too much hassle. Then you've got to fly in 2 different directions. They weren't overly ambitious to go. Well, how does it change the dynamic of the business, of a family business like Roman's Pizza, which has been in operation for 20-something years now, that suddenly you're going across geographies, where suddenly the bacon is different, the pepperoni is different, the quality of the mozzarella, for goodness sake, is different?
It puts a lot of stress on your infrastructure. That is why we're trying to be prudent in our growth approach. We've had inquiries from India, we've had inquiries from China, but like I said, if you can't support it, and our most important market at the moment is still South Africa. We still feel we have a lot of growth here, and we don't want to necessarily take our eye off the ball locally, where our head office is based and where our power base is, chasing pipe dreams necessarily in some markets.
But surely you've got to do it almost like a carpet bombing effect, because when you're going in with one can of tomatoes and one block of mozzarella and a ball of dough to supply that store for a day, because you're kind of getting the brand known still, you might as well have 20 stores, because then you get the power of volume on your side.
Correct, but that's the problem with Africa, is getting that mass market entry. 20 stores logistically is not easy. Even if you open a store in Lagos and it does telephone numbers for sales, it doesn't necessarily mean you can roll out another 10 outlets overnight. The sites aren't available. The space isn't available.
KFC went into Lagos. Nando's went into Lagos. Nando's bailed. It was just too difficult to secure the adequate quality of ingredients. They weren't happy with poultry suppliers. They had a former president as the chief poultry supplier there, I think, if I remember correctly, Obasanjo. And they weren't satisfied with the logistics of it. Do you run into that risk, Ryan?
We do. Look, I think we're quite fortunate in that the bulk of our business is in liquor, as I'm sure most people know. And liquor is available
People get the munchies late at night. You know?
So for the bulk part, the liquor is sourced locally. So that box is kind of ticked. But yeah, on some of the food product, we do distribute food from this side. But it is challenging. It's expensive. There's a lot of regulations that in place that do make it extremely restrictive. So yeah, it is a key element is trying to just maintain that standard. In each independent country.
Wadi Basson talks about Lagos and how in 5 stores in Nigeria he sells more Moe Chandon there in those 5 stores than across 500 Checkers and ShopRite stores in South Africa, simply because there's a very rich clique of individuals in each of these centres who will support key cool brands. You've got that well tied up in terms of appealing to higher LSMs. Where do you position yourselves? Whereas Castle Lager in Kenya is a premium brand, we see it here as mainstream. How do you position Romans in those markets?
We're a mass market brand. That's how we view ourselves. In South Africa and globally, being the price leader, we want to appeal to the masses. We feel it's a safer strategy going forward, trying to appeal to a niche. You're trying to cater for a far smaller segment of the market. A ShopRite caters for the masses with a element that buys the premium champagnes.
But you've got to really understand your demographics in the markets into which you're moving, aren't you?
Correct.
And so what are you finding in terms of the different demographics in those markets?
Again, depending on the market, we've spent a lot of time, that's why, on our bordering countries, because we can go up and down and get more accurate information. The biggest opportunity lies in lack of competition. Yeah. What we find. Not necessarily to say that the market is necessarily there even for pizzas. In some countries they don't even know pizza. As in South Africa 25, 30 years ago, pizza wasn't a mainstream product. So we will have to encounter those challenges as we go along. But due to the fact that pizza is naturally very affordable, far more affordable than a protein meal, and due to the fact that Africa as a whole, there isn't much disposable income, we feel that once people get attuned to the product, it'll naturally grow.
Again, that is, again, sorry to quote your competitors, the famous brand's philosophy. Huge surprise in South Africa is when Debonair started up, maybe 100 stores, but the sharing concept on pizza was very powerful, and that's become a big mass market product in South Africa. When it comes to sourcing brands and alcohol brands and liquor brands, we know that the Johnny Walkers are very popular in this market, and Chivas Regal, very active branding campaigns. Do you team up with the global brands, with the huge multinationals?
Yeah, so not all the time, unfortunately. I think there's quite good infrastructure that has been set up within South Africa. But not a lot of it has filtered through into the rest of Africa. So we very often find that the brands are being distributed by alternate distributors to who we would necessarily work with here in South Africa. So that is a bit of a challenge. And for some reason, a lot of the products aren't always available that we would commonly find here in South Africa. So we do need to make adjustments for that.
It strikes me that you're most excited about Kenya. You love all your markets, I know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's the PR. But in terms of your eyes lit up, you talked about Kenya, you talked about 3 months of trading in Kenya. Wow.
Yes. Look, it's a phenomenal place. Number one, I just think it's probably one of the more formalised countries. It's also quite far up north. We've been like John, fairly hesitant to go up north far too quickly, and it's a lot easier for us to stay along the borders. But I think once we've gone in there and we've started to understand it, we can just see the potential there.
Do you do partnership arrangements? I mean, do you manage those properties yourself, or do you get partners to manage them? You operate them on license?
They're all operated under license, so we've all got independent franchisees who would purchase a master franchise license for that region. And I think when you bring up the excitement about Kenya, I think there we've also managed to get a really good partner who understands the market, who's been there for a long time. They've been involved in a couple of other businesses, so they've got experience on bringing products into that market.
I mean, I remember you mentioned, of course, that people are interested in China. But Spur went to China briefly and got the wrong partner in China. And suddenly they want second floors of office blocks and stuff, and nobody saw the Spur brand anywhere, and it just didn't work. It is all about the partnerships and being able to select the individuals or the families, perhaps families, because you'd like to do family business, I'm sure, being a family business yourselves. Those ideal tie-ups, the Rupert and the Rothschild, whatever it might be, the Alpha and the Omega, that's crucial.
100%. There's too many stories out there like China where, especially in Africa, if you don't have the right partner on the ground, he'll destroy your brand. And it's not that simple like in South Africa where you can go pull down your signage. Who's going to go to Nigeria and try to pull down a sign from a Nigerian company, hypothetically?
Yep.
If it's not easy. So we operating on two models. We're willing to JV. We believe in our brands. We're willing to JV in the local company in certain markets. And in other markets, we operate on a master license agreement as well, but a fairly stricter master license.
5 years from now, how big is the Romans footprint?
Globally dominant. No,
of course, the Romans were for a bit, yes.
We are hoping in 5 years, realistically, if we can have between 50 and 70 outlets in Africa.
Outside of South Africa, yeah.
In the balance of the continent with 300 outlets in South Africa.
Okay, so ambitious growth plans still to double the footprint in South Africa and to take exponential growth in other parts of the continent. What about you guys at News Cafe, right?
So I think we currently have 24 stores in South Africa. So we believe that our cap would probably be around the 35 store mark. So we've got a bit
like
to go.
It's a Tasha's cap, yeah.
Correct. And then up in Africa, 5 stores at the moment, 2 planned later this year, another one already confirmed for next year. And I think realistically we should be close on the 20 store mark. If we can get into the right markets.
And a lot of people, of course, have gone into the Middle East, but that's kind of restrictive for you because, as you say, it's mostly about the booze.
It is mostly about the booze, and it's also mostly about the partners we've discussed, which is always difficult.
Fascinating insights this evening. Thank you to John Nicolakakis, who's the chief executive of the rapidly expanding and ambitious Romans Pizza, and Ryan Pellatt, the operations executive for News Cafe, taking it from a street corner in Sandton to street corners across the continent. Thank you for watching the Moneymakers. There'll be more tomorrow night. Till then, bye-bye for now.